Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 10th meeting of the Select Board. I'm calling our meeting to order here. Now, if you are able, please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will now enter into public comment. By our select board rules, we allow 21 total minutes of public comment, with each speaker asked to limit their remarks to 3 minutes. I don't see anyone here in person. If you're attending online on the Zoom and you wish to participate in public comment, you can put your hand up and be promoted. We will give you a couple of seconds to do that if you're interested. And if not, we will go ahead and move along. Our item 4 on our agenda is a departmental report with Consolidated Facilities Director Tom McCarthy, who has joined us here in person. Tom, how are you?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. So you've probably noticed we've been doing this over the past year, asking department heads, divisional heads to come in and sort of give us a lay of the land for their departments, things that they're thinking about, things that they're hoping for, problems that they're seeing, and we engage in some exchange. How you use your time is up to you, so let me turn the floor over to you.
All right, so I'm not gonna waste a lot of your time because I, quite frankly, would prefer to give you a quick, brief update of what we do and then answer direct questions. Makes it easier for everyone, so.
Sounds good.
Just gonna go real quick, so Consolidated Facilities Department, we are responsible for 26 buildings, anywhere from the high school to literally the powerhouse right over there, right? So, but it's a total of 962,934 square feet. So that keeps us pretty busy. Our personnel is in Consolidated. Immediately, we have 4 licensed personnel. We have an electrician part-time, we have a HVAC tech, and 2 construction technicians, I guess you would call them. One being operations manager, Bob Mayhew. We also have 5 non-licensed staff, and then I oversee 37 full-time unionized employees at the schools, which is the custodians. Basically working with the custodians and our guys. One thing I do wanna point out is we were talking about weather before we got live here, was I just wanna give everybody credit between the custodians and the consolidated guys. They kept these buildings up and operational in a great manner. Jumping into like ongoing projects, we have the East Mountain Firehouse that we got the iron structure and most of the wall panels are up. I would say most of the utilities to the building are in placed, waiting on water and sewer, waiting for weather to change in the spring here, so hopefully we'll get that done soon. And last check, we were looking at about late fall for a completion there. The other bigger project is the 3rd and 4th floor renovation at the Cunningham Collycott School. So we've already done phase 1, which was got out the library on the 3rd floor. We created 5 classrooms and 4 offices. The next phase 2, which is starting in June this year, is gonna be to rebuild the library, and I think we're gonna have 2 or 3 offices up there for community schools. But also, when we're all done, the library will be back, we'll gain some classrooms. I can't say enough about the contractor, he's been fantastic, to the fact that what we got done in just a couple of months last summer was really incredible. We did some improvements using capital funds. Have to thank the capital committee for getting us some capital funds. At the DPW alone, we did some vinyl siding on the Parks building. I don't know if you guys remember, I'm sure John sees it all the time, but now it's not that old gray building, it's white, we sided it, looks good. A new roof on the Consolidated Facilities building. We put some mini splits in the DPW administration building. Also new windows in the DPW admin building going in starting tomorrow. And several garage door openers, operators in the DPW. One of the things, cause I was at DPW before, used to drive me crazy, is the doors were left open. No waste of heat, just leaving them open. But with the new operators, time is set, they close in 5 minutes, great, it just works. On our work orders, we basically do all of our work off a work order. We'll get a call, but we try to generate a work order for everything to keep track of where we're going. We receive over 100 work orders on average per month. That doesn't include like schedule maintenance or like seasonal maintenance. So we keep pretty busy. I mean, you think about it, we have what, 7, 8 now full-time employees are consolidated. And we're running around all these buildings. The schools keeps us pretty busy with their work orders. Constantly trying to improve on our efficiency and response time to work orders. We have a new system in place now, and hopefully that'll help with that and planning. Getting into challenges, and one of our biggest challenges, I think, because I've been to a couple conferences just in the last month, was it's AI and technology. Just trying to keep up with what's going on out there and what's coming, and how do we get on board, so to speak. So that's something I prioritize for myself and certainly my staff. So let's get the opportunities to train and understand this so we can use it to our benefit. And of course, the other challenge is funding. I mean, it's no secret that the funding is just not there. We haven't, I can tell you, the capital committee, I mean, the list is just ever growing. So we do our best to try to prioritize and make sure we're going in the right direction every year for that. So in a nutshell, that's basically my statement. Like I said, I'd rather answer direct questions if you guys have ideas or thoughts that you don't know what we do.
Thanks, it's a great overview, lay of the land, so questions from the members? Or thoughts or observations?
Yeah, so thank you for your presentation and for coming out tonight. I don't know as much about, you know, our facilities at this point, but one of the questions I have is, do you have the capacity for or operate off of an overall asset management plan for all the facilities to like just understand the overall maintenance backlog and prediction of like when capital expenditures are gonna.
Right, so
Like, I know we have a whole committee that does that, and this
Right,
is just me
yeah,
being
yeah.
new
So,
and my ignorance of how
I
it
was
works.
just actually, right before this meeting, I was at the Facilities Advisory Committee for the schools.
Okay,
So we basically talk about where we're going, what's coming up.
yeah.
But in-house, we have an asset management plan. And you follow it the best you can, but
They're hard to
things,
keep up
right,
with,
things come
yeah.
up. And, we're doing our best. The one thing I will say is, I've used some funds from capital to do a survey. We just started this past year. I'm trying to implement this to do all the schools and eventually all the buildings. We walked through the high school today actually with a a firm to talk about energy efficiency and how can we get better there. So hopefully we get a report back from them. But we did another school, we did the Glover first. And it's a survey, but the good thing is everybody I've talked to says we're doing a good job on PM and keeping it running. I give credit to Bill Ritchie, who was my predecessor, and he ran a good ship. And he's got a good plan and we're just following it. The only thing I'm trying to do is bring it a little bit more into the next century and get, because of the AI.
Yeah, you mentioned AI, so are you in the process of like evaluating use cases for your team, or do you think
Yeah,
you can
so-
gain efficiencies in what you're doing by utilizing some of that?
That's one of the, I actually have a meeting on Friday to talk with another company that we might use for just that. And they'll come in, they'll have our work order system, but they'll also work with us on surveys and understanding our equipment, the age, the wear and tear, and
Yeah,
basically help us with planning what's
Like
coming.
it could probably help you with
Oh,
the
it's-
asset management.
Right,
Cause
going
it's
with,
labor intensive, like sometimes teams, you have to have a big enough team and people to dedicate to that.
yeah,
but-
going to these conferences / seminars and understanding that the technology that's out there and the help that you can get,
Yeah.
it streamlines a lot. So you say you have a big team, but if we can get this stuff under our belt and understand it, it'll help us greatly.
Please, Mr. Driscoll.
It was last November, town meeting, the last town meeting we had.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, November.
Okay.
And we had a caucus to vote a precinct 8 member in as a town meeting member. We're in that cafeteria. And that cafeteria in November was gleaming. I mean, 10-second rule, if something fell on the floor 15 minutes, you'll pick it up and eat it. It was just a testament to your workers, Tom.
Yeah,
And I'm
I agree
telling
with
you
you,
right
John.
now, Tom, that's November.
Yep.
And it looked like brand new.
Yeah,
So that's a testament to you and your crew.
I
And
appreciate
the
it.
men's room was fine, it's just very clean. And unbelievable, November, how clean that school was. And I'm sure all the others were too.
Yeah,
And I
no,
can testament to your workers with the shoveling, they were out there, and
Yeah.
it was no fun, believe me.
Yep.
And they were out there and they did a great job. But
Yeah, no, I appreciate the kind words and, it's good that they know it and I do my best to try to let them know that how much we really do appreciate them. Cause they do the work, they're getting it done for us.
and it showed, it really showed how
Yes.
clean that school was.
Yeah, and
And,
you're right, they are all equally the same. Those guys do a great job.
I couldn't get over how clean it was.
Thank you.
Just serve dinner on the floor of the cafeteria next time we're there.
10-second rule, you could have had it 15 minutes.
It is, as someone who has 3 kids in the high school and knows how much work cleaning up after those 3 kids in one house can be, I am also always impressed with the cleanliness of the high school.
Thank you.
It's remarkable. Anything else, Mr. Driscoll?
I'm not one for modernization, I'm old fashioned, but good for you, you're doing that. I'm fighting that as long as I can, but good for you that you're getting up with all the new modern technology.
Yeah, it really, really helps with the, maybe not the day-to-day stuff, because that still needs to happen, and that's boots on the ground, as they say. But when it comes to, our rooftop units and our, BMS systems for the maintaining heat and air conditioning in the buildings, it's huge.
I know.
It's really, really, really important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just echo my colleagues' praise for the department and also the incredible work that was done over this kind of rough winter, which is hopefully getting close to being over, but I heard rumors of
Don't jinx us.
no, I know, I've heard already that apparently we're getting 19 degrees or something like that next week at some point. So not to,
Cover my hydroponics.
it's already jinxed. So the one question that I had, I'm very familiar with the sort of ever-growing list of funds needed in this space, but I'm curious about the costs. Obviously, we've got the human costs of our staff, but also, we have materials costs, and I'm curious to hear from you if that has changed dramatically over the last couple of years, or how that's been shaping up, because I know in some instances we've seen a lot of prices going up dramatically that we have no control over.
Yeah, so we'll go with the materials first. Yes, but fortunately, I think we did a good job planning specifically the project at the Cunningham Collycott, because we're in really good shape there. Again, the contractor there is fantastic. I can't say enough good things about them. But yeah, you see it. I mean, a motor that we probably had to buy 2 years ago is probably 50% more this year. And just tracking it down is challenging, because our schools, building wise, are not old, right? Because 20 years old isn't that old for building, but the stuff on top of it, inside of it, is coming to that, as they call, end of life. And unfortunately, it was great when it all happened, because we got all new schools, but we got them all around the same time. So that's one of my biggest fears is, and I've said this since I took on this position, is the fact that they're all coming around at the same time. again, going back to the planning and the preventive maintenance, we're in good shape. But we have to start thinking about where we're gonna start upgrading in order to stay where we are.
And do we have a good sense of what that is gonna look like? You know, this seems like one of those potentially AI could maybe be useful in helping.
Oh,
with some-
absolutely. And that's one of the things that I wanna use is AI. So when I'm planning the future capital improvement requests, they can be huge with that, cause what it does is it gives me the ability to get the information, to pass it on along to this board, certainly warrant committee and town meeting and school committee, whoever needs to see it, but it makes a big difference when you see the real nuts and bolts of it. I just wanna jump into the human factor is, you know, we're very fortunate. My group of guys is fantastic. But I wanna keep them. So that's one thing we're constantly working on, trying to retain the good people that we have, cause we really do have a good group. So that's something that, you know, if hopefully don't have to worry about it. If I do, Nick's been great about talking with me about it, so it's something which it's definitely in my mind to make sure we retain the people that we have.
Good. Well, a lot of retention is having a good boss and and a nice environment to work in, and so it really does feel like you've been
Try.
providing that quite well.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Any other comments or thoughts?
Could I just ask Tom to elaborate on a couple things? One of the things that I've been aware of is we're not winding down, but as we approach completing Atherton, is the reminder that the Hurley Amendment mechanism was set up with the idea of funding fire station projects, but also the DPW yard project that has obviously sat on a shelf. So I guess in terms of thinking about where our investments should be in the medium term, long term, at that facility, which has yourself, DPW, parks, what do you see as what kind of long-term thinking we need to be having about that complex more generally?
So you asking what my thought or dream would be?
Sure. Or what should we be thinking about that we have to set aside in terms of money to keep investing down there?
Frankly, I mean, we got the new salt shed, which was huge. That just made a world of difference. The admin building, quite frankly, I think should be updated to what I would look at. I was in Norwood and we did a DPW complete rebuild there, but we built a 2-story office building which housed everyone. It had operations, it had administration, it had engineering, everything was right there. The garage was right there. So that's one thing. Selfishly, we certainly need more room for consolidated. We really need a garage where we can take our equipment and work on it. We work out of a cage in the basement of the high school now. It's fine because the high school is obviously the biggest campus we have. And it's pretty centrally located, but it would be nice to be able to either add on to the building we're at or something new. The buildings down there are in rough shape. We're doing our best with the garage operators, that made a huge difference. I mean, the garage, it is what it is, it's a metal building, but if we can get in and out of there and we've changed some heaters, we put a vent fan in the vehicle storage garage to kind of keep things dry, so the equipment will last longer, because if it's moist in there, it just tends to rust. I mean, think about it, salt, water, it's gonna rust. The operations building is good shape. That's actually it's 9, almost 10 years old now, because I've been here for 10 years in the town and we built it or finished it just as I started here. But that's in good shape. So I would have to say if we were looking down there, it would be really the admin building and do something, maybe a garage or a bay for those 2 buildings.
Tom, I was on that committee with you and Marvin Gordon
Yep.
a long time ago. What about where the trucks park now, another building like that, a little bigger?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because if we can't get another building like that, I certainly would like to add on to that particular building, because again, what's vital to keeping the equipment lasting longer is washing it. And we really should have a wash bay. where we can pull trucks in safely, wash them, in all elements. Cause right now, we're washing outside. It's not good. I mean, the washing today was beautiful out, but January, you don't have that option, and you really should wash the trucks more often. That's my DPW.
What do you think a building like that would I call it a condign building, like the way they used to build buildings. What do you
Yeah,
think
it's basically a metal structure.
with walls up so high?
Yeah. I don't even wanna, cause I mean, talking about materials, right? I don't even
Right.
wanna
What you say
guess.
today is not necessarily
Right,
true in
I
6
mean, it
months.
could be Probably roughly, let's call it $2 million.
Be a good investment.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, if we can't go there, then let's add on to it, cause there is some room there.
All this, well,
We
but
could
you,
add on to it with higher bays.
you took over the DPW, you've done a lot of work there. You've done a lot of work and that the administration office, I think they got it from the old lumber yard at the Unkley House 50 some odd years ago.
Well, the building we're in, the building consolidated is the Gilbane building, which was the offices for when they built the schools.
Right, so neither building owes us anything, you know?
This is true.
We've gotten our money's worth out of that main one, but it's functionable.
Yep.
You know, like you said, you cleaned up the park department building, it looks nice.
Yep.
And the new salt shed is unbelievable, and I honestly think one more of those metal buildings with more bays would
Yep.
probably take us to the next. Cause you cleaned up a lot of, like that DPW maintenance garage, it's unbelievable with the
Yeah.
flooring and stuff.
Yeah, I have to give some of the credit, well, a lot of the credit to Charlie Colligan, who's the
I know,
fleet
it's
manager.
it's
He's,
gleaming and it's
Yeah.
bright, you know, so.
Yeah.
We're not far off, let's say there,
no,
compared to
and
when,
it's the
when
little
we
stuff, if
started
we can
that
keep
committee,
going.
when we were in that committee,
Yeah,
that was really a real bad issue down there,
yeah, it's come a long way,
yeah.
for sure.
With your help, when you were the DPW, lead guy with Chase, and it's been a lot of improvements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick, did you have anything else?
No, I just wanna, thank Tom for his work and one element where we've been very fortunate to have the energy manager grant between both the town of Milton and Randolph, where we're sharing an energy manager. Kai Mueller is here 2 days a week and 3 days down in Randolph, and he's starting to really get the ball moving on some projects, as Tom mentioned. They were at the high school today, they're at down here at Town Hall and at the COA, checking out additional EV charging locations that will be at no cost to the town. Moving forward on solar on the fire headquarters building. And then as we think about decarbonization plans, it's an opportunity to both invest in and replace some of that end of life equipment, do so with grants and minimize the cost to the town's taxpayers. So it's a good team that we have in place, and I think Kai and Tom working together, you'll start to see the outcome of that collaboration very soon.
Great. Mr. Daly, I know you got here a little late, I don't know if you have any.
Nothing for me. I was able to listen a little bit on my ride in. Thank you for your work. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom.
All right,
We can move along.
have a good night.
Appreciate your
You
time
too.
very much.
Thank you.
What was the basketball score?
We lost.
Oh, sorry.
Kids played hard though, but didn't go our way tonight.
All right, so item 5 is committee report. We have the finance committee and the budget coordination committee. We've kind of been taking those as singular item, so I'm.
Yeah,
we'll-
so really quickly, cause I think Nick will cover a lot of this in the in item number 6, but the select board finance committee has been working on the FY27 budget. Right now, where things stand is due to a couple of factors. We have $325,000 in less than anticipated expenses, which is a good thing. The question we really have for you, our colleagues, is what is the appropriate use for those funds? And Member Daly and I have some ideas. The school budget is pretty much wrapped. And so what we're wondering is, what are some one-time uses that we can think of for other town departments, and or do we commit commit some of these funds to reserves. On the budget coordination committee front, now that FY '27 is almost done, we're applying some of the lessons learned from that process, how our funding model, the dynamics of it, how it works. Also too, how it interacts with the school department's model. So what we're pivoting toward now is toward understanding our model, examining some factors there. Also, Milton Public Schools is gonna come back with their operating model, and they're going to give us a peek at the implications of various growth rates for them, what impact that would have on school operations, which ultimately affect educational outcomes. And also too, we're working on an updated schedule and calendar for budget planning moving forward, just given the lessons learned from the past year. I don't know if I've left anything out.
No, I think.
I always ask, there's a lot.
Everything that we're gonna add is gonna come up in Mr. Milano's
Yeah.
discussion of the budget, but I think for the coordination committee, we will meet on the 23rd.
Okay.
So that is when the schools will have their forecasts, and I think even before that, we'll begin the process of adding the school's forecast along with the towns and trying to figure out where we're gonna be over the next 2 to 3 years with our expectations. Obviously, all of those things are subject to change depending on expenses as well as revenues, but that's part of what the committee is charged to do, and now we're moving towards that work. And hopefully we can close out FY '27 soon, but that'll be in Mr. Milano's update.
All right, and then we'll maybe reserve the discussion of the 325K to that discussion as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's-
Well, thank you for the report. I think that does tee you up, Mr. Milano, for
Thank you.
our item 6 fiscal year '27 budget.
Thank you, and there are a couple of decisions or recommendations that we're looking for from this board. So as was just alluded to, there were, when we last met, we were talking about $325,000 in savings and less than anticipated expenses. Late this afternoon, we had a new update in terms of our general insurance budget, where this is workers' comp, professional and general liability, auto liability, et cetera. We've had some old claims drop off in workers' comp, and our cost is gonna drop significantly by about $50,000 or 15% year over year. And in addition, we purchase insurance through Maya, which is an arm of the Mass Municipal Association, and they're making adjustments across cities and towns on where they can. So we had another significant savings on our professional liability line of insurance. So the bottom line there is we can really further roll back our budget for general insurance from 1.5 million to 1.4 million. So that savings is another $100,000. Typically, the final renewal doesn't come out until we're through town meeting. And so we're just ahead of, they've provided these renewals early. So it's information we have now, which we typically are not able to adjust the budget when the final renewal comes in. So it's a good position to be. So really, that 325 is $425,000 in round numbers in terms of less than anticipated expenses. And one thing I did just kind of want to remind everybody is when we're talking about less than anticipated expenses, one of the changes that we made to the budget earlier in the process was to pull in additional funding from the operating budget stabilization fund. So we had anticipated using 700,000 of that, and then in January it increased that to 935,000. So while there are savings, the savings are because we had increased our revenue estimates and had pulled additional money into this budget. So and when we're thinking about potential investments or using that money to fund new items or one-time items, it's just critical to remember that it's not truly savings per se, and that if it's a recurring cost, we'll have to pay that in future years, and that those recurring costs will grow, and that we might have less money to utilize in future years. But where our budget was from a few weeks ago to where we are now is $425,000 and less than anticipated expenses. Three of the items that the Select Board Finance Committee discussed on Monday morning at our most recent meeting was investing in the technical support position that Chief King spoke to us about, has been speaking about at the warrant committee level and others for several years now. That's a position that would support records, camera management and rollout, software management and rollout, and just a civilian position that you do find in departments that we have not been able to fund. And as technology grows, especially as crime around technology grows and the kind of technology that the officers rely upon, it's critical that we have that help. And we budget that at $120,000 when you combine both anticipated salary expense plus when we budget and a new position, we always budget for a full family plan on health insurance, to budget the kind of upper end limit of what that might cost. So that's $120,000. We also discussed two one-time expenditures, one of which being an economic development plan, which we budgeted for around $55,000. We do have the scope on tonight's agenda to discuss. So obviously changes to scope, increases in kind of outreach and community engagement would be more expensive, or reductions in scope would make it less expensive. So it's a little bit of a moving target, but I think that's a fair kind of number to keep in mind if that's something folks want to move forward on. And then we were scheduled to talk to DPW Director Marina Fernandez and Tool Design about traffic calming policy and plan. That is something that DPW has been working on scoping out. The full cost of that is $120,000. We do budget for traffic engineering services already within the DPW budget at $80,000, so we wouldn't necessarily need to appropriate the full amount because we have some money already set aside in the DPW budget for that, but not necessarily what's needed to fund the full project. I'll note we shared other potential ideas, whether it's part-time positions at the library that have been requested and not funded, and a few other things. I did again share the past needs request across town departments, but I would feel a little reluctant to do too much in the way of recurring expenses, and if we're gonna invest in anything, it's gotta be something that's truly critical, because we're gonna have a challenging budget year in fiscal 28 and 29, just like we do in a normal year. So I think being sensitive to that, I think targeting some critical one-time investments might be a productive use of that money while still setting aside some of the savings as we're gonna allude to them. So I can pause there if you wanna add anything or discuss kind of that potential plan.
So I'm guessing that you guys discussed this. Do you wanna share a little bit of your opinions on these three expenses or any other expenses? Then we can.
Yeah, I'll share a bit of mine. I believe the police technical support coordinator was addressed by Member Wells in our last meeting. It's something that's been on the asks of the police department for a number of years. It has direct impact on us being able to use body cameras and download the information from the body cameras, which I believe as part of our union contracts, as well as what we expect from our police department. Also, with so much happening in cyber, we do think this is an important position. Being able to fund the $120,000 over a number of years, we think is something to also maintain in one position. The one-time cost, the economic development plan, as well as the traffic calming, I think those have been subjects that have been brought up in town for a number of years. Economic development is very important for us to be able to not only have an understanding of the areas where we could have some development, but having a plan put forth that we can actually act on, not just something that's in theory. So I think that's also important. Traffic calming with the changes to 28, with the continuing changes, as well as the pilot ending, and I think this would happen in the summer as well. That being a massive change, I think that's also something that would be very key. The ability to also not only use the savings, for lack of a better term, for this year, as well as partnering with the DPW budget, allows us to use both as a source of resources. And so we still will end with somewhat of a surplus. And these are two things I think would be really key for us moving forward in town as well. So.
And just to add to what Member Daley was saying, so I think all three of these items, one of our upcoming agenda items for tonight are the select board goals that we set into motion in November. And all of these items align with our priorities for the year. So I just want to underscore that. But in particular, with the economic development plan, the traffic calming policy and plan. These are both areas that we've had a lot of outreach from folks in town on, and part of developing these plans is so that we can be proactive and not reactive. Sometimes there's a sense that these things, traffic or development happens to us. Setting out a series of townwide goals and measures will help us be more in the driver's seat moving forward. And in my opinion, is one of the reasons that these are worthwhile investments.
So, two questions I have, that I might just state right away. I think this is for the police technical support coordinator. Town meeting's already budgeted money for cameras, is that right, for body cameras?
Yes.
There has been an appropriation to purchase body worn cameras. We have not.
We haven't
It's
purchased
still,
them.
we haven't purchased them and the policy still needs to bargain and implemented with the two unions that it would affect.
Okay. And then on the traffic calming policy and plan, I know it was like right before the pandemic, but there was a big traffic study done in town, and then that did sit on the shelf. And part of that was because of COVID and the sort of changes to traffic. But I'm curious, is there a way to leverage some of that material or as part of this planning process? Because I think Member Hegarty said it quite well, is we don't want these to sit on shelves. We want to be able to both do the work and then also to implement the best practices that the work suggests.
Yes, I agree. I think two things to that point is the very broad scope that's outlined. Tool design and Marina will be available on March 24th at our select board meeting to discuss that. So that gives the select board an opportunity to weigh in on what that scope might look like and what those deliverables will be in terms of budgeting. That's kind of the upper end cost to set aside if we want to proceed with that work. So it's not necessarily committing to a specific scope or game plan. I think the other piece of this is what we have found as a struggle is having a good rubric and template for like a street is this kind of street with this kind of traffic and safety is being impacted. What are our quick implementation ideas and where are critical places that we should act on immediately and more quickly, and what would those implementations be? So it's more of it's a framework and a policy and a plan that will result in more clear deliverables.
Yeah.
Rather than, and my concern, and I've said this, is just another plan on this issue isn't kind of sufficient. So it really is to lead to implementation. And what we have found is like it's been folks who know how to advocate that get results, and we're trying to steer clear of that and try to be more data driven and more kind of black and white about, okay, this area is a known crash area, or this is a known high speed area, and here's the implementations that we can do pretty easily and effectively. And this whole process will explain that to folks, solicit input. So the scope we can discuss in great detail, but it is supposed to translate to a concrete action and not to be more of kind of an initial step. The economic development plan is definitely more of like an initial step to think about where areas in town and goals and potential things that people might want to see. Whereas the traffic calming policy plan is to lead to direct concrete action.
So I think, pertaining to the traffic calming plan, to Chairman Zoll's point, I think it would be good to get clarity on whether the updating of the townwide traffic model is included in the scope, or if it's something separate that would be informing this, because that, I remember talking in an MPIC meeting, Dick Burke shared the report with me, and it was interesting to read through, and it does seem that that some of the traffic model from prior to 2020 would be outdated, and it would be good if some adjustment to that informed like prioritization of hotspots and areas. And you know, I'm a big fan of data-driven planning and traffic management because we all turn into traffic engineers, right? So having an objective set of facts like really helps everybody to solve helps the town to call balls and strikes. However, we shouldn't underestimate sort of like the intuition too of the town residents. So I would advocate for leaving some room for that as well.
And I think the other component.
Right now, it does seem like a patchwork of like who called at this time.
Yeah.
I get lots of those calls.
Yeah, no, and I think it's also about building operational understanding within the town about like what kind of improvements to roads really work. And I don't know if anybody's been by St. Mary's, but some flex posts were installed around St. Mary's. And the intention of that is a very rounded curve. People can take the turn really fast. If you square it out, then they have to slow down to take the turn. So that's, it's a low cost, it's a nuisance for maintenance for sure. If they get hit, you gotta go remove them. And if they get knocked over by a snowplow, you gotta go install them. But it's a low cost way of really slowing traffic down. And if it works, then maybe down the road, it can be a capital improvement to kick out the curb, solidify it, and now you can maybe plant a tree and do some green space. So I think it's also about incorporating these kinds of ideas into our operating posture and as part of just kind of normal course of business. So it's giving the department an understanding of how that would work as well. And again, as I said, and to your point, like we asked about the traffic model, they were open to that. I think you can ask that, and I will ping that question ahead to them so that they know when they come in on Tuesday, 24th. That scope can be tweaked or adjusted. It has a lot of community engagement, hence the high cost, but I do think that's critical.
I think we need the community engagement.
So,
yeah.
We've seen that with the road diet. I think it's essential and it leads to good outcomes when you have community engagement. My guess is that was, I think it was 2019, that study is like Member Haggerty said, I think it will be somewhat dated, but I think certainly 28 is gonna look a lot different. But some of the hotspots that were identified in that report will still continue to be hotspots.
They had already reviewed that prior to us meeting with them as well,
Yeah.
so.
And particularly with the road diet, that will have changed flows around town too. On the, so just by my rough math, that's 295K of those three items. And we're talking about 425K was there a discussion at the committee level about putting the remainder back into stabilization fund, or what were the?
Yeah, I think our assumption is that goes directly into operating, leave the savings there.
Okay.
And really the question, not to get kind of too deep into the numbers, is, and we'll go in order here. So the economic development plan, $55,000. So what I would suggest we do is we increase the appropriation to the master plan committee's budget by an amount to cover the economic development plan. We've included $30,000 in the budget for that committee already. So the question here is, do we wanna increase it by $55,000 so they have 30 plus the 55, so the 30 can be used for other programs and projects and plans? Or do we feel that they don't need $30,000 plus the $55,000? So that's kind of one of the first questions there is. They have a baseline budget, MPIC had a baseline budget of $30,000 for plans for a number of years. That baseline is included in the fiscal 27 budget. It could be increased by $55,000, saying now you have a budget of $85,000 and we expect a large portion of that to go to an economic development
I
plan.
don't think we need $85,000 as the new chair of the MPIC. I don't think we need that.
Cause that has to be spent in 1 year.
It has to be, encumbered or spent within
Yeah.
fiscal 27, and then a new appropriation could be on the.
I think if we get to 55 to cover this plan, if that's what you're saying, so if we have 30, it would take that 55 down to 25.
And then there wouldn't be additional funding for any other potential initiatives for the year, and
Yeah.
that might be sufficient, but
So our charge, as I understand it, is to make a recommendation to the planning board on what is left over from the implementation of the past master plan to get something done in terms of an economic development plan, and then to make a recommendation of what could be examined in terms of a next master plan.
Correct, to continue the implementation of the current master plan, to start thinking about the next master plan.
Yeah.
So if we think their priority should be working on an economic development plan and that's the right committee to lead that work, then perhaps the answer is it just is enough to do
But we
this
also
project.
don't have all the members of the committee seated.
What was the thought in the original 30,000? Just
The committee to determine how to start utilizing that.
And that's been the standard.
That's been the standard with MPIC, and that's
Yeah.
how we didn't take it away or increase it, we just kind of left it alone, figuring the committee would get to
And
work.
that's been rolling for how many years now? For 30,000?
At least the last several, I don't
Yeah.
wanna say how many years back.
There's been no usage of it so far.
I mean, we spent a couple thousand in the past year to, we've got a researcher looking at how a townwide shuttle would work for residents, you know, within the town of Milton. So I don't wanna go down a rabbit hole, but it's examining a model that's used in other towns like Lexington, you know, for people who don't have transportation. It's like a kind of like a supplement to public transportation, you know, like kids, teenagers who aren't driving yet, or just people who don't have good access to a vehicle to get around.
So as chair, it's kind of your call as to
I
what you
think
want to
this-
start with, right? Like,
I honestly think this is the highest and best use of the MPIC funds to deliver an economic development plan to the town.
Would you want another 5K for like miscellaneous, like if somebody had a similar idea for a similar project so that
Yeah, I mean, we could do
have a little
that.
bit of flexibility?
Yeah, I mean, flexibility is always nice, but also very conscious that it not be too much because we have a lot of other priorities and, you know, financial constraints for the town.
So what I'm hearing is change the appropriation to the master plan committee from a $30,000 to a $60,000 appropriation that should be enough to cover an economic development plan, subject to changes to scope, I just wanna be
Yeah.
clear. And another, a cushion of about $5,000 on top of that.
Economical plan, you're gonna be deciding what good areas for development is and stuff.
Yeah, so it's not gonna be saying, like, these are all the developments that will happen, but it will set out, like, what are the town's priorities for economic development? What kind of economic development do we wanna see? And what are certain areas that you might be able to get that economic development? And like, what good development in those sites look like, right? So it's still pretty broad, but it's not dictating what would go there, but it's some work and some analysis, and also too, importantly, it will have the voice of the town included in what people in the town want to see. So it'll be like an economic analysis, like a mathematical analysis of it, plus, you know, what people actually wanna see.
And it goes to the planning board?
If it
all of
was,
us, right?
so
Yeah.
what would come out of this would require further work
Yeah,
to translate it into zoning.
yep,
That would go to the planning board for sure. In this committee, the master plan committee is required to report to both the planning board and the select board.
The only problem with this is when they pick an area, it's a snowball effect. Before the residents realize what could be coming down the road, it's too late. I've learned that with what's going around in my neighborhood.
I think with the plan, John, it's more about showing us the opportunities and what could be. They wouldn't necessarily implement anything, it's for us to have a concrete sort of layout
Yeah.
of where are the spaces where Milton has opportunities for economic development? What are the costs associated? And then we decide and try to really get a handle on how do we lead that
Yeah.
development, so it doesn't just happen to us in terms of what
But
you're
there's
saying.
more discussion.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Go Before the planning board.
Oh, yeah.
So
Those
it's,
are-
the end product is a report,
Right,
so it's
right.
not like a
It's not their
change.
final
It's two.
decision.
No.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and
Yes.
in the scope, right? There's 2 rounds of community input. There's not just one. There's like 2 opportunities for the town to comment on all this.
And even then, after that report is done, there's still more time for community input. So
I just,
I think your
And everything-
caution is well,
Yeah.
you know, warranted, and I think we're trying to build
don't
in.
forget, there's still 2 storefronts on the Parkway not being taken,
Yeah.
and that's a beautiful location.
Mhm.
Yep.
I would love a Dunkin' Donuts there. After I get done in Hyde Park, I'll stop there on my way back.
Yeah.
So remember, there is 2 beautiful storefronts that are not
Yeah.
taken yet, and
Yep.
that's a great location,
I want a
Yeah.
sandwich shop.
and I
Yeah.
can't understand why. You know, it's a beautiful site. It's just being, so,
So part of the study
Yeah.
would look, I would imagine, at existing commercial spaces and why have they not been successful?
Yeah,
Because
we
that's
have to-
important to understand, like why, you know, talking to some business owners, like, you know, what's attractive about this, what's not attractive about it. You know, call up Dunks and ask them why they haven't moved in.
just, it's got a lot of traffic and everything, I just don't understand it, you know?
Definitely. And just to everybody's point, the first workshop that is currently scoped is to solicit ideas. And then a second workshop is to kind of report back on findings, so it's not so much a, here's our report, what do you think? It's what do you want us to keep looking at and keep exploring? So it's really supposed to be that first step of information coming in before information comes back your way.
Plus, what I've noticed a lot this year, a lot of these store owners don't do their sidewalks. And that's a pet peeve with me.
A lot of people don't do their
No, but I do
sidewalks.
90% of the commercial buildings, and ours is wide, ice melt. And you go to a lot of these, it's a little car path, and they're not even ice melt, and it's
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. So we gotta have a formula for that too, Nick, you know what I mean,
Sure.
going down the road.
Yeah.
They gotta be held, their feet held to the fire.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think thank you for correctly on the 60 for that.
And then a similar point on traffic calming.
Yeah,
So as I mentioned, we have $80,000 already budgeted each year in the DPW budget for traffic engineering services. We use those for kind of like ad hoc projects, so there will be a need for those services throughout the fiscal year. So we could request the full $120,000 be appropriated from additional funds, or say, give the department $40,000 for traffic engineering services and then offset the rest with this. I don't wanna shortchange them, but I think that would be sufficient.
How much do they typically spend in a year on engineering services? Do they usually use the full, like, would you anticipate that they would use the full 40,000?
In a normal year, yes, the full $80,000 really.
Oh, sorry.
But in a place where we'd probably be trying to not do too much while this work is going on in the background, there might be a little bit less, but in a normal year, yes, we would expect them to fully spend the $80,000. I wouldn't want them to not do projects, but
So I guess my question is there a stable of projects that would not get designed? And would we only be working on a traffic plan?
it is possible that could be impacted, yes,
Yeah,
if we reduce their regular appropriation.
yeah. I mean, to me, that's the trade-off.
So in which case, it sounds like just move forward with the full appropriation into DPW.
I would be reluctant to reduce funding for traffic engineering in town for the sake of creating a plan.
Sure.
Because a plan should take into account, work that's also ongoing.
Sure. I was just looking
I don't know
to-
if other members feel
No,
the
I
same
think that
way.
leads to offsets, right? Because now out of the 55,000 we thought for economic development, there really becomes 30,000, 25 left over, which changes the balance between that 120 and the 80 for DPW. So I think Administrative and non will be able to figure out, we'll still have some savings there, but maybe if DPWs keep that full 80.
Okay.
And is there general consensus on the board for the police position? Yes, okay, great. So I think you've got instructions, and so my understanding from the timing for the budget is that there's a meeting on the 23rd,
Correct.
and then we'll see it again at our next meeting, which is the
It'll be on our
24th.
agenda again the 24th, but otherwise, it's really, we have one more discussion item related to a free cash appropriation, but otherwise, the budget is pretty much wrapped, subject to the warrant committee's final recommendations on all of it.
Okay, great. Are we comfortable?
I wanna thank Winston and Megan for working.
Yes, you guys have really, it's,
Nick brought us a lot of good news.
Oh.
Maybe next
It
week
started
we'll
with
have
bad news.
100,000.
you know, you
Thank
said,
you to our colleagues for your support as well.
it looks like we're gonna talk about free cash here.
Yes, so the two other things that we're moving forward with out of the last free cash is some additional hours in the building department and some additional planning work on zoning bylaw recodification, which is something that the planning board has been seeking for. So free cash, additional appropriations, as you can see here, for really for town council to assist the planning board in going through our zoning bylaw and making necessary updates and improvements with the planning board's at the planning board's guidance and direction, and then additional hours for building department as we are evaluating what we need more permanently. With the challenge for us is getting through the next 2 years when all these buildings are being built at the same time,
Yes.
and trying to get them some more capacity in the meantime, as we think about more long-term kind of investments in that department. But the kind of last big discussion item, it's something again the select board finance committee discussed on Monday, was we've talked about appropriating $500,000 to the school for school reserves, and there's a couple different pathways by which we could do that. The one that we've talked a lot about is appropriating money directly into the SPED stabilization fund. This is a stabilization fund that the town meeting adopted at the May town meeting. We had anticipated potentially appropriating money to that, but ended up not being able to do so. So it has no balance, but it's a fund that's allowed to be used for certain special education costs and transportation costs with the approval of the school committee and the select board. Another alternative that we've discussed is to appropriate the money directly into this year's school budget, which would allow them, through just kind of how they manage their money, to have that money close out to the circuit breaker reserve. So a lot of what the schools have been focused on trying to do is build up their circuit breaker reserve. So in order to try to appropriate money to school reserves, one pathway would be, again, as I said, just put money in the school budget, resulting in a greater than anticipated circuit breaker reserve that they can use beginning July 1 of 27. So really, it's a question of what the select board's preference would be on how that $500,000, firstly, is the select board committed to $500,000 for school reserves? And if so, how would you like to see that implemented? And of course, that's still subject to the recommendation of the warrant committee, but we just wanted your feedback and direction on it as well.
Go first.
Mr. Daly.
All right, I'll go first.
Mr. Daly has learned the ins and outs of school circuit breaker funding.
I
to
don't
a
know, I don't
level
know if I,
which
I don't know if I
impresses
have it
me.
all, but
Yeah.
I am struggling with this ask of the appropriation. Not because I wanna keep the money from the schools, it's that we have not received anything really documented from the schools in terms of how they intend to appropriate the funds. At last discussion, they had a plan for their reserves, where we said, well, if you're gonna keep $1 million from the state funds, we would not wanna give you the extra $500,000 for you to have 1.5 million in reserves. I don't know if they intend to change that in terms of keeping less from the state and then using a special education fund as the backfill, which will give them a total of 1 million. And I have not seen confirmed their plan for either the 3 years fill, or I think they now wanna use it as 4 years to build to the 3 million or 3.1 million in reserves. So without that map, and maybe they're putting that together for the forecast for our next joint meeting, I'm not sure I want to appropriate the 500,000. It really depends on how they intend to use their reserves. My other issue with some of this is that the Special Education Stabilization Fund was established during the override as a backfill, special education expenses. And also, to me, it is a way for us to continuously be in communication with the schools. Appropriating it directly to the schools by putting it in their FY '26 budget, which they then put in the reserves, then means that if they do run into a space where their costs are rising, we may not know.
Right.
And I think in good faith and communication, a major part of that is that if things are rising, we need to have these points along the way where we are communicating and we hear that, hey, our costs are going up, this is what we're going to need. I don't anticipate that either this board or any other board would ever say to the schools, no, you can't have the funds that have been set aside to you specifically.
Right.
But the point of that is for us to have a conversation and knowing that along the way, things are getting a little bit more expensive, or perhaps the state, the state has said they're gonna fund it 90% in the future.
Yeah.
And if something with that changed, it's important that we know that along the way. So I don't want to remove those purposeful conversation stop
Yeah.
points where we actually say, hey, this is what the expenses are, this is where they're rising, before we appropriate the funds. So I think there are a couple things here I'd like to see from the schools. One, their plan for their reserves over the next 4 years. How they plan to appropriate this 500,000 if we do appropriate it towards the schools. And why would we establish a special education fund and then for back-to-back years not fund it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just something to keep in mind, we're not totally there yet, but when it comes to free cash, we're not doing ourselves and future select boards and town leaders a ton of favors when if we plug too much funding in directly to programs, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
We have to, we have done that this year. It was a good idea, it is called for, we may still do it from time and again. However, to Member Daly's point, it really should involve a conversation. And we really need to start to be mindful of how we're applying free cash. Because that's how you develop a structural gap.
Yeah.
With lack of discipline around that.
And I will say, and Nick knows this, I think this year we've had more conversations than any previous year that I've been on the select board with the schools about their budget. Still not sufficient, I think, in terms of like the timeliness, but at least, this is the first time since I've been on the select board that we're not scrambling at the 11th hour with a huge shortfall that was totally not predicted.
Right, and
So I-
Superintendent Phelan and Nathan Hutto and Mark Loring, Lizzie Carroll, Amanda, they've all been amazing, and we've worked through some hard conversations in this process, and we've, I think we've really built a foundation to continue to stabilize the town's finances.
Yes, I agree, and my point in saying that was that I think that the budget super committee has really kind of helped that process. And I don't think that
It drives people crazy sometimes,
Yes.
but I do think it helps.
I do think it helps
Because it
too.
forces us to talk about money.
And I think those conversations are so critically important to have across the board here, so that they're not just happening in silos. And I think Member Daly's points about making sure that we continue to have those conversations are really critically important. My instinct on this is the special education fund, because special ed costs do tend to vary wildly, they're not predictable. We did set this up and then we haven't funded it. And the spending from it needs to be cleared by both school committee and us. So it really encourages that continued dialogue. But I also think that hearing from the school committee about their thoughts about their own reserves and their thinking would be really helpful as well for us to make that decision. So I don't think we have to come to a decision on that tonight, or do
Are
we?
we scheduled for any kind of joint meeting with them on this, on the budget?
Not presently, and time is certainly the enemy where we
Yeah.
are in, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
approaching mid-March. So if that was of interest, I would say it has to be next week. Or I would say it has to be next week.
Yeah.
I
it has to
I think
Yeah,
that we
and-
need to have the meeting of select board finance, school committee and the warrant committee, because the warrant committee has a completely different
Right.
recommendation at this point, and this is a change that the warrant committee is gonna need to
Yep.
work through as well.
I think that makes the most sense, and then each finance committee can report out to the board. I think
Okay.
that's easier
That
to
would
pull
go
off.
into our joint
also.
on the 23rd.
Dale, you said it great, so the public can understand and everything. Thank you. All three of you did a great job. Public can really understand what you said, and that's great. Thank you.
So the really only, we have a placeholder in the warrant right now for our amendment to fiscal 26 appropriations that it's really a carryover because we did that last year. So it doesn't sound like we're going to need that article, but we can, you know, draft the article with an appropriation of $500,000 free cash to sped stabilization fund. So that's ready, and it sounds like that is where the board is leaning in terms of consensus on it.
I think
So
it
we
makes
can
sense to
prepare
have that
Yeah.
ready to go,
Okay.
and then if
How
we.
is it easy to make changes to that? So I think the warrant committee has, I'm not saying that we've completely agreed on that $500,000 going to the special education fund, because I think the warrant committee was at 0 to the special education fund
Mm,
and $500,000 going directly to operating. We had not said exactly how much yet, you know, mentally for me, I've been thinking, well, maybe 250 and 250. Because we were still kind of waiting for the school, so I just wanna know if we do make a change and there's a shift, how easily can we amend that in the warrant?
So yes, it's pretty easy because all of these appropriations into stabilization fund are the same article.
Okay.
So it'll say appropriate to general capital, road, special ed stabilization, operating budget stabilization, fund, all within one article. And so the numbers just within
Just
the
move the
article have
numbers
to be
around.
adjusted. In terms of, we're looking to have the select board approve the warrant, you know, in its entirety at our meeting on April 7th. And so that'll go to the printer the next day. So it's really like by the end of March, our March 24th meeting where we kind of want these kind of locked down. And if the warrant committee makes a separate recommendation, that's fine, but we just, that is really the deadline in terms of what can be prepared and ready for town meeting to go out to town meeting members.
Oh, are we meeting April 7th?
It's on our agenda to discuss that.
Okay.
potential.
All right, okay. I was like, well, mathematically, that can't be the second, but I think we can make that work, but we can discuss that.
Yeah, that,
Okay. Are folks comfortable with that discussion?
Yeah, so we'll try to get a meeting of those three bodies before our joint meeting on the 23rd. To flesh this out and then. go
Yeah.
from there.
I think that makes sense. Capital budget?
no updates there, Mr. Chair. I will take that off for the next week.
Okay. And snow and ice budget.
Yes, this is where the bad news the good news stops. So heading into the most recent storm, we were at about $1 million deficit for snow and ice for fiscal 26. That's the current year. We're expecting to be close to about $1.5 million in terms of estimating where we are. One of the issues that we had was salt deliveries had been delayed. Actually, we didn't get salt through the storm until several days after the storm. So we had placed orders that hadn't yet delivered. So we're still combining and pulling in invoices and soliciting contractor invoices. But for fiscal 26, certainly a heavy sneeze season, about $360,000 of that. I'm just trying to find the specifics of our expenses was on staff time. We had a number of Sunday, Monday or Monday holiday storms. And then if crews work through the night, our collective bargaining agreement carries over time and a half pay through their regular shift. So there is well-deserved benefits to the employees for putting in substantial hours, but it does start to add up. Salt was, I'm not finding my report, so I apologize, but another $500,000 in terms of like materials and equipment, primarily salt, and then vehicle repairs and maintenance. And then the rest is contractor expenses for contractors that we hire. And then those large storms, not only we're mobilized during the snow itself, but then as you saw, the night work that it takes to clear snow from key intersections, to clear sidewalks. It does take 2 to 3 nights of snow hauling and removal. And while we have staff that do it in a couple of locations, depending on how much equipment we have, we do have to bring in additional contractors to support that work. So those kinds of long duration storms are expensive because it snows just for a long time and then it takes a long time to clean up. So we're looking at about a $1.5 million deficit. We'll provide a further update March 24th. We'll continue to knock on wood that we can that it won't be too much more in the cost as we head through the rest of the year. And then we've already started to identify savings that we are aware of within this year's budget. For example, our insurance budget, we should have $100,000 in savings there. The select board budget would have savings because we had vacancies. So there are departments with savings that will eventually transfer to the DPW budget. The DPW general fund budget will have savings in it. So we'll try to eat up as much of that deficit within existing year appropriations. We are allowed, as I've discussed at prior meetings, to leave that in a deficit and to resolve it in a few different ways, whether it's a town meeting appropriation in the fall or adjustments when we set the tax rate again in the fall. So I'll lay out some options once we get to a final number and have a better lay of land as to where our departmental budgets will end. We've advised department heads at this point, like, if it's not a critical expense before you go and spend it, check with us. We're not really doing a hiring freeze, but we're gonna slow things down so that people would be onboarding later in the fiscal year. So we're taking some measures to slow our costs down, to absorb it, but we have a number of tools to utilize to offset that deficit, but it will all lead to an impact to free cash for what's certified for next year.
Just for comparison, what was our anticipated deficit this year for snow and ice?
In like what's a normal deficit that we face?
Average year.
Yeah, the average year is probably about $500,000 to $600,000 in cost. The last several have been light winters and they've been in that range. So this is certainly the highest spend in 10 years, and that's the brunt of years of inflation. Just fewer people's willing and wanting a higher rate to put their own equipment on the line as contractors, and that's something that cities and towns across Massachusetts are facing. So a combination of everything that has driven that up. Yeah. Snow definitely had something to do with it. Very big
On
storms.
the weekend.
And it's funny to think that we were really fortunate in a way on the most recent one, of course. It's crazy.
As we were discussing, could have been much worse.
Yeah, thankfully. So we'll provide a further update on the 24th and start to identify the ways that will eat up that deficit within existing
It
appropriations.
sounds like asking Mother Nature to schedule her storms between 9 and 5 on a
Tuesday.
week. Tuesdays to Thursdays would be optimal, so get a letter together for that. Item number 9 then, economic development plan scope, potential community planning grant application and timeline.
We've kind of discussed this, but again, in terms of exactly the scope, we can continue to tweak. We have shared this with the planning board as well and solicited their feedback in terms of appropriate scope. The way that it's currently drawn up is that there'll be an existing conditions analysis, a community workshop, drafts prepared, a second community workshop, and a final report prepared. So it really is meant to be look at what Milton has, talk to key stakeholders in the business community and elsewhere about opportunities and constraints, engage with the community, and then engage with the community again. That's broadly the scope. Happy to take questions or thoughts or questions about how to refine that or things to include that's not currently included today.
I have a lot of notes
Great.
that I can just send to you.
Okay, that works.
But I think my general feeling about this, and I read lots of scopes, I think that this is a really good start. I think the general roadmap is right. Just a couple things I'd like to see is under the existing conditions, maybe some benchmarking, or it doesn't necessarily fit neatly within existing conditions, but I couldn't find a better place for it. Benchmarking Milton against similar communities. so the draft existing conditions report, you know, I have a question on where if anywhere that a gap analysis would land. I also think, you know, in the task one mobilization, having some understanding, from the consultant or messaging on what this is and what this is not, to kind of get to, Member Driscoll's earlier, questions, you know, that this is high level, this isn't, you know, a move to implementation. And then I had a question around the mention of scenario planning under the second community workshop. My question is for the consultant is, does scenario planning entail or compare against a scenario of what if nothing is done? What impact does that have? And then what are the relative payoffs for development and value capture? So it's a lot of stuff, and I'll email it to you,
Okay,
but
thank you.
I think it's a good start. But I think some clarification would be good.
Other questions or
I
thoughts?
marked it up with my pink pen, my Hello Kitty pink pen.
Member Haggerty's in her wheelhouse, so.
Other thoughts or questions? For me, I'm just curious if we've gotten feedback from the planning board on.
It's, we shared it with them, it's on their agenda, I think they're gonna try to talk about it on Thursday at
Okay,
the
great.
regular meeting.
That's good.
Are you gonna speak to them on it, or are you gonna present to them on it, or?
The planning director will handle
Okay.
discussing it, and I've already shared with them kind of where we're at in terms of, while we have this scope from a consultant, this is very much still to be procured, so like,
Yeah.
we're not talking about, and I think you've hit on that, whether to do this project with this person or not, it's really about, has the tasks and outline of work appropriate, and then when we go to solicit, we'll see who is ready to do the work and best suited to do the work, but really just wanna have a really nailed down scope of services for when we go to procurement.
So also too, you know, in fairness to any consultant who may end up working with us, I think it could be valuable to come up with a statement of why, like, why is this work being done now? And what is the town, the planning board, the select board looking to get out of this engagement? Because if that's expressed in a solicitation, it really helps a consultant with their it helps them to be able to demonstrate their understanding of the project, in my opinion.
That's a great thought. Cause I've been the one trying to articulate it, and
Yeah, I
we
think,
can try to draft something and get some feedback on that, cause I think that's helpful to make sure I'm
yeah,
articulating what
Yeah.
people want correctly,
Yeah.
not just making something up.
I think it should be something that's joint between the select board and the planning board to articulate.
Alright, we can work on that as part of kind of finalizing this as we move it forward.
Great, and we'll look forward to the thoughts of the planning board also. Item number 10 is select board goals status update, and we've got this handy dandy spreadsheet here, which we will not, I don't think, read item by item. We could, if we were.
You should do a red, yellow, green on these, although I could see why.
Green on a lot.
Yeah, we're green and I would
are
say
doing a lot.
some of these are always going to be sort of ongoing, right? Like economic development opportunities, just picking from our recent one, so we, you know, establishing a new committee regarding the economic development, or request that master plan committee have a key focus on economic development, so that is you know, obviously something we've just discussed, but that will be a continued discussion, I think, long after all of us are off the select board. Anything that you wanted to pull out and highlight specifically Mr. Milano, or anything that members wanted to pull out and highlight specifically.
No, I'm happy to defer to questions and comments and things that we need to redirect a little more attention to. That was the purpose, just to temperature check and see where you want us to refocus some of our efforts.
I have a question on the economic development opportunities. So we have the assess the viability of current economic development opportunities in the economic development plan. So I forget when we were developing this list of like what the specific action items or like the definition of the goal, so to speak, of the assessing viability of current economic development opportunities was.
I think it was, and again, it would probably be a place where we'd have to put some funding, would be like, where the town does have zoning, why or how come that zoning has been utilized. And the best example of that might be the Milton Village mixed use overlay district. So like that was put into place a number of years ago, a lot of intentionality behind it, a lot of planning work behind it, and nothing's really come out of it. So is there just landlords who aren't interested in redevelopment? Is it that the zoning doesn't actually provide the pathway for a project? There's a couple of banks there. Banks are happy with a retail presence and they don't really want much else. So it would probably take a little bit of outreach. The planning department at that time was still being staffed up, so it's something maybe we can think about ways to tackle that internally. It's not something we have, again, to my comment, it's not something we've focused a lot of effort on.
Right. Okay.
But one of the questions is about the East Milton Fire Station. We have appraisals underway. Do we have a time frame when we think we'll see some update on that?
Yeah, I received an update from the appraiser who was on site a couple weeks ago, pulling together the report now. I think last week he said 10 to 14 days, so perhaps before our March 24th meeting. I had actually meant to include it on this week's agenda just to revisit the RFP again, but ahead of the 24th, we'll resend out the RFP, but we should be pretty close to getting it out, at least in the month of April, to get the ball rolling on that.
The other thing, just to put in the sort of what we've done is we did have a really good community session on that.
Yes, that's a good.
So I would highlight that in terms of some
Dates.
On the town-owned land, I know that we're still, still continuing to evaluate the proposal for town farm. I know we've gotten some communications around that. So not only to say that I will be putting that on our future agenda item list.
And we never finalized any orientation, and it strikes me now that we're back in election season. We have to have
Can we get this done
some
in
form of
2
that
months?
come May. Well, and maybe in the beginning it's just gonna be individualized.
No, but it'd be helpful, because with Mr. Zoll and Mr. Wells not up for re-election and not going to be here to debrief with you folks about what would be helpful, and then for the 3 new members, what worked, what didn't work, what you could have used. So if you could all just reach out to me when you have an opportunity and just share what would have been helpful for you, or what was helpful for you, or what you wish we had told you.
I would like to include that as a article, as a discussion item for one of our April
Great.
meetings.
Yeah, that's a
As
good idea
well.
too.
Ben, are you gonna do an exit interview? Sorry.
Hey Nick, on the town on land, the golf courses are on there?
No, I don't know if we ever pulled that in as a goal that we had talked about, but it's not something the board's really engaged in much work on, but.
So, Mr. Driscoll, I will say that we put these together right before you joined. And so the select board next year should have the same exercise, so you should save some, like if you've got items that you'd like to see the select board work on throughout the year, it would be good to, and it's not that we can't start working on issues like that now, but in terms of setting it as a goal for the board, this was this year's document. Yeah.
Don't wanna lose sight that we do own that.
Yeah. Anything else that people wanna call out? We talked about, for me, one of the incomplete ones is the communication policy for the board by December 2025. As I remember that item, it was really about how are members communicating both to each other as well as about each other, as well as about other parts of the town. Am I remembering that correctly?
And more clearly having kind of like agreed upon plan for when you all get an email, like
Right.
who's gonna own just at least getting an acknowledgement out the door.
Yeah,
Not that all members are free to obviously engage, but just so that there's kind of some acknowledgement from the board, from someone in the capacity to do so.
so that's still something that we could, I think if you wanted to do like a quick survey or have an employee of yours do a quick survey of policies like that at
Sure.
other towns, we could look at them and even approve something before May.
So we'll have to do a select board retreat in June this year to try to stay on track. We were a little bit, if we were doing red, yellow, green, we performed yellow.
I would,
Almost
yeah,
orange.
from my experience of bringing you guys on, I would try to discuss among the three of you, like 2 or 3 dates that work in June, like now. And then whomever the new members are, you basically pull them to see if they can make those dates work. And
Yeah,
then
like
if,
get them right off the bat.
yeah, like right off the bat, cause otherwise, when the summer hits, it's people are going everywhere. So trying to make it happen in June is, the reason for that is because you still have people around, cause kids are still in school for the most part.
We had a town meeting in June last year too,
We had
didn't
a
we?
We
June
did,
town
yeah,
meeting.
June-
We had a
busy.
busy summer.
Yeah. Okay, well, I love having this document, I love tracking it, I would like to see it one more time before I step off, at least, and I look forward to future iterations from this board. Item 11 is Milton Landing Seawall Grant Application, Letter of Support.
Yes,
Mr.
thank
Milano.
you. So as the board may recall, we had applied for and received a Seaport Economic Council grant a couple of years ago to begin the process of assessing and designing really improvements to the seawall at Milton Landing along with the boat ramp there. That grant was rescinded due to some of the issues under MBTA communities when we were non-compliant. It was rescinded, so that was a $140,000 grant. We are working with Ty and Bond, who was our engineering consultant at the time, to pull together an updated application with generally the same idea of engaging with the public and starting to plan and design climate resilient design for both the seawall and replacement to the boat ramp. One of the problems with water access in Milton is that boat ramp, to launch a boat, you need to use the old rail car and cable system, which the
They're all
folks down
going-
at the Milton Yacht Club know how to do and can do, but for somebody to launch a boat on your own, you're in a tough spot. There is a smaller ramp on the far side of the landing that again is very narrow. And when the rowing crews are active, it's a little tight down there. So that's the long-term vision. I don't have a draft application, I don't have a draft letter, and so I really don't have an action item at this time. But I'll send in a letter of support when we apply, and that's to be sufficient unless the board feels strongly that we should not apply for this grant.
Let's get the money back. Yeah.
So my question is, so we have to update the application, do we have to update the design or anything, or is that like
It's not really, we're asking for money to
to
start
do the design? Okay, okay.
So we're really at the entry level stages and it's gonna be really more of a planning and initial designs in terms of how this process will play out. Cause it's
So
gonna be a
are-
substantial project.
Are we having to do an additional outlay of funds to like update and like prepare the updated application?
Our
Okay.
partner, Time Bond, will help us with a lot of that.
Okay.
And then in terms of a local match, the Community Preservation Committee has recommended a $28,000 appropriation for some of like the beginning environmental permitting questions around
Okay.
such a project, because one of the challenges is when we did, or the Seaport Economic Council funded a study on dredging the channel out to really to the ocean. It's contaminated throughout. So any work that we are gonna do around the seawall or the ramp will likely involve having to remove and dispose of contaminated soils, because
Okay.
the Neponset River upstream is
Yeah, yeah.
contaminated and all
It's all
that
the way
flows
down.
down, so.
Wait, so is the dredging happening like down by Port Norfolk?
No,
Or
the dredging
is it
was
also
like
dredging?
millions and millions of dollars, so there's,
not
it's not
happening right
happening. There's no pathway for that to happen right now.
Okay.
It would need to go, yes, all the way down. Quincy was part, it was Boston, Milton and Quincy that
Okay.
that had kind of teamed up for that study, because it would affect all of us in
Yeah.
that channel all the way out. So that's a long-winded way of saying it's a preliminary piece of it, and one of the critical pieces is better understanding how contaminated that area is and what the town's options would be to dispose of it. And how expensive is that gonna be? Cause that could take the project from, a few $100,000 for a ramp to millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Last time they did that, they blew all that mud up on the bank, up under the marshes.
When was the last time they did that?
About 35 years ago.
Really?
And it came back in,
I'm sure that did not help anything, yeah.
you know? So a boat ramp would be able, a regular boat be able to back in like they do in other.
That would be the goal.
goal?
Yeah. And one of the benefits of when Dexter Southfield came in and has been down there is they installed at their cost a low profile dock. So you can carry a kayak or canoe or a shell down and launch it from the low profile dock, but you still can't really launch anything with a trailer. So we've improved access for folks who have the means to get down there, but it's still not a perfect solution in terms of access. And there's really limited public access throughout this portion of the river. So the idea is, yes, that would happen. It has its own challenges, like now where I'm gonna park my trailer while I'm on my boat. There's not a lot of space down there, as we all know. So it's a lot of that to be discussed and to be considered as we go through this.
So we'll look forward to the update on that. Item number 12 is East Milton Post Office vehicle parking issues. And I know firsthand that it's still an issue because they were parked in about 6 or 7 spots in front of the MAC on Friday night.
I know a couple mailmen that work there, those are all extra vans, they don't even use them.
I know, and that's
It's absurd, the guy,
Mr. Danbrook was telling me that they ordered these new vehicles in without a place to park them, and now this is where they're being
they're
parked.
parking there.
Yeah. So, Mr. Milano, I think what we were going to do is start drafting a letter to our US representation, asking for some assistance on this.
And I have already had some feedback from Congressman Lynch's office, who did reach out, and the feedback from the postal service was, in terms of the storm itself, was, well, our operations were shut down, so we couldn't get out to move the vehicles, which doesn't address the fact that they were there to begin with, against 1 hour parking limit signs and no overnight parking. So I think we should put it, I think maybe have the board authorize you to send a letter to Congressman Lynch and Senator Markey and Senator Warren, and we can work on that and get that off. I'm not too optimistic of what that means in terms of actual results. So it's something we're gonna have to probably continue to do, really just kind of at a local level. As we can keep the pressure on and hopefully that translates, but the initial feedback and commentary was not optimistic that anything might change.
Okay.
And I know Mr. Wells has had a conversation with folks in the post office, and that also hasn't translated to any, unfortunately, improvement yet.
Thoughts from the members?
Couldn't there be like some kind of procedure in advance of a snow emergency like that to, if there isn't space in Milton, I mean, we're not like that far away from downtown Boston where they have like the
Parking
central
spaces,
area where they have those mail trucks, like the big mail facility down there. I mean, I can't speak to, it's just a thought or an idea, like can you bring them downtown, or is there another is there another location that either in Quincy or Dorchester or something where they could bring those vehicles? To
I
not
think
have
the
them
problem-
arterials here?
I think the problem for us is the snow problem is a problem, but it's really the persistent overnight parking that affects the businesses in the district.
Yeah.
That's the ignoring the 1 hour parking that is meant
Yeah.
to turn over spots throughout the day. So I think
Yeah.
it's more the snow issue, we could actually probably work with them on solutions like, hey,
That, I mean, so that I'm offering like a back of the envelope, just quick thinking, common sense, public safety. Hey, does North Quincy Post Office have, or Fields Corner, do
Yeah,
they have?
I think it's a good point, but I
But yeah, the persistent.
yeah, that's the real problem. Like
Yeah.
if they're snowed in for a couple of days, that's one thing, but like in the summertime, the spring and the fall, there's it's just a
Yeah.
constant presence and constant violation, frankly, of town
Yeah.
policies.
Why are they receiving all of these new vehicles, given that
Probably
offices are
package
relatively
deliveries,
small.
I would imagine.
relatively small, the delivery area hasn't changed? Why would they have additional trucks?
Parcels.
This honestly, it's hearsay from my
Amazon.
part, like
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the why they're doing this. But I think a letter would be a good step. Is there like a postmaster for the town of
There's a-
Milton?
for
No.
that, for
For that station?
there is, and
There's a manager. My parents used to work for the post office.
Okay, I think maybe what we
Yeah,
could
there
do
would
is
be
we
the
could
manager.
we could send the letter to our
Towards this area.
representatives, but I think maybe sending a letter to the manager of that post office first to say, because of this continued issue and your continued noncompliance, we feel that we have no choice but to raise this to the attention of the federal level. We would welcome a conversation with you about how to accommodate post office operations while not impacting, the town.
Okay.
And if the members wanted to authorize Nick and I to put that together and send it, we could do
Yeah.
that, or we could just go straight to the US
So
rep and
moved.
send it.
Tow company will move them, right, Nick?
we have not made that request of a Kiki, but
So
we don't know what
Who did-
the ramifications of that would or wouldn't be.
who did Richard speak to? Is he speaking to the congressional delegation, or did he reach out to the postmaster Boston?
No, he went in and had they who hadn't been calling back, both police and DPW did return his visit, and I believe he spoke to the manager of that
Of the
location.
branch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did
And
he
then
speak to them in his capacity as state representative?
That is my understanding.
Okay. So this is us going forward as a town.
Correct.
But this might be, I think the next point of escalation would probably be to the postmaster. I mean, it's also fair game to go to Lynch's office, but I think if you were gonna bring the operational problem to the manager's boss.
Well, so my point, sorry, Mr. Driscoll, go ahead.
Seems like you created that nice parking area, they're taking advantage of it since you built it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So they're just flaunting it.
yeah.
So I guess maybe understanding the organizational structure to your point is helpful. So if he has if there's another, reach out to them and then.
Surely he has a supervisor,
Right.
Yeah.
or he or she, or not to assume.
Okay.
Is there a motion then?
Yeah, I would make the motion for the letter, but this is, in terms of compliance, do we have no recourse other than them saying, okay, we'll do that? Because if we're not allowed to tow, we don't ticket. It's kind of asking them to play nice, right?
Yeah.
We can't assign the ticket to a license plate because they don't have a license plate. Whether we can tow or not is an unanswered question at this point, and we can do a
They
little
may
bit of
not pay
homework
the
on
bill.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an
That's, so
expense.
Kiki might not wanna do it because they're just gonna,
They
they're
don't know
they're
they're
not,
not gonna get
they're not
paid.
gonna get
Or
paid
will
for it.
get the bill.
Yeah. or will
Yeah.
get the bill.
So in no man's land.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's what, like, I honestly, I think it's good that Richard went and spoke to the manager, and I think that it's good to give.
It's a funny way to say it.
Right?
I was thinking it's like an
Yeah,
It's like-
Applebee's or something.
It's like before bringing Congressman Lynch down to bear on them, which I'm sure he would if asked. It might be because the congressman's office is just gonna call the postmaster anyway.
So the motion could be for Mr. Milano to identify
The appropriate
the
person.
appropriate, yes, supervisor of the supervisor to send a stern letter to and then
We have a pretty
authorize.
clear consensus, I don't think
Yeah,
we need
okay,
to vote
great.
so much.
Let's
If
do it.
everybody's behind.
Everyone in favor of,
Keep advocating.
100% behind it. This is good bureaucratic navigation.
maybe we
I-
could hire a couple of folks from Southie to just like help us with some space savers.
Exactly. Let's put space savers.
Enforce
Yeah.
the space, use the Boston code for space saver enforcement.
Put a chair out there.
They're there on Sunday in that church, getting busy and they have double parking out in
Oh,
the
that's
street.
not good.
Yeah.
Cascading issues and
And
other
that's,
ways.
that I would assume that whole area, like Garden Street, Plymouth, all that is like definitely a congestion hotspot in
Yes.
town.
All right, so we have consensus on that issue. Item 13 is annual town meeting warrant, Wednesday, May 6, 2026, warrant articles. Anything new, exciting,
No,
removed?
no, status quo mostly were some changes based on the discussions this evening. And warrant committee is continuing their work. They've been obviously meeting over the past few weeks and have started to vote on various articles, so that work's underway and we'll provide a further update on the 24th, but nothing new from me about.
And then on item 14 is the Randolph Ave Road diet.
I'm gonna recuse myself.
Please recuse yourself.
Just two quick updates, and we touched on this in prior meetings.
On the warrant, I'm seeing here on our note that we have 2 members of the select board, surveyor of the highway, and then a town moderator for a term of 3 years, moderator's time.
That's last year's warrant, I'm sure.
Okay.
That I haven't changed that, so sorry.
I was just looking through it.
Last year's election warrant, not this year's election warrant. So for Route 28, we've touched on this before, but they are planning to remove the separators between Pleasant and Reed and Access Road. They said sometime in March, maybe April. They are planning to come back and do post-implementation counts in the first and second week of April. They're planning to count all the same locations that they counted in the fall. We have inquired about them asking about additionally counting at Canton, Unquity, and Blue Hills Parkway. As anecdotally, we have seen potentially more traffic coming down the parkway and coming around everything to go up the parkway into Boston. They didn't do pre-counts there, but on a separate project, the Boston and Blue Hills project had looked at had done counts in May of 24. So we have recent data that might serve as some form of a baseline. If there are any other
For 138 Canton and Unquity and Blue Hill Parkway.
Blue Hills Parkway, like at the rink, that
Okay.
intersection there, so we can see what's coming and going back out. And then otherwise, they're gonna do all the same locations that they did before. We're discussing internally if there's anything else that we think should be included, but again, not having a real good baseline that makes additional locations a little bit challenging to kind of speak to about impact. And then that's all geared towards a discussion with the select board in May, targeting end of May for MassDOT to come in and provide some feedback on the project overall. So that target date has remained unchanged and just some work happening in the meantime leading up to that.
Any questions from the members? Okay, we'll move on. Member Haggerty, you can return if you'd like. We have item 15, board and committee appointments, airplane noise advisory committee. Do we have an application for that?
Oh, that's am I missing? Do we not have the name on the agenda?
Name is not on-
James
Packet
Hackett?
or
Yeah, James
something?
Hackett.
Yeah, the name's not on the agenda.
So we should kick that to the next meeting. I don't know how we
Yeah.
missed that. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
My oversight.
We like you,
Yeah,
James, we
we have
just
a
can't,
motion,
we can't do it if his name's not on the agenda, unfortunately.
My changes to the agenda might have taken it off. Sorry about that. But we will move that appointment for the next
Nothing
meeting.
personal.
Did it get deleted because you were trying to fit item 15 and 16 neatly on separate pages?
You need your
That's
pink
my
pen.
forensic
for the perfect
analysis of
page
how
break.
that happens, yeah.
All right, we have some
Use that.
we have some motions that we could be making for 16 is discussion approval request of the Milton Public Library to reserve the Town Green and Baron Hugo gazebo for the annual teddy bear picnic featuring Stacy Peasley music on June 3rd, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m.
Second.
That was me reading the item, but if somebody would like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion
You can just say
to,
so moved.
what?
You can say so moved because he read it.
Oh, so moved, oh, yeah, sorry.
Second.
Second,
So.
okay, we're all in person, so this is a voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Discussion approval, one-day liquor license for Saint Agatha Parish at 432 Adams Street for April 11th, 2026, from 5:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the Danny Gill concert.
So moved.
I second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion approval, meeting minutes, January 27, 26, January 27, 2026, February 10, 2026, February 23rd, 2026. I think all four of us here were present for all three of those meetings.
23rd, Mr. Driscoll's not
23rd.
23rd,
here. 26th.
No, you've been at all
that was the online one, I think.
I was on,
Okay.
I might have fell asleep, but I was here.
Physically present
Yeah.
counts, it counts. So, and you
So
were definitely
moved.
conscious for most of that, so moved, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town administrators report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really just two updates from myself. We are happy to announce that Cody Case will be starting as the new assistant town administrator on Monday. He comes from us from the legislature as well as Rasky Strategies, where he's been for the last few years. He worked at the legislature for a number of years for Representative Ken Gordon. So we're excited to add him to the fold.
Let's get some good comms experience then.
Yes, so that we're excited about that.
Okay.
And,
Will he come in on our second meeting this month
24th,
to
yep.
be introduced? That would be wonderful.
So we're excited to have him, and then this, as I had noted in an email to the board earlier, is, you know, just getting our office and then the town engineer position and then the planning department back up fully staffed. It just adds a lot of capacity to what we're able to handle, so we're excited to have more people to share the work with. In addition, we had 4 firefighters graduate the academy on Friday. Aiden Smith, Cameron Dickens, John Clunan, and Aiden Hoey wrapped up their academy. So they're working as firefighters, and then next week they really go off on their own and count for our staffing and everything. So we welcome them and we're excited to have them. And Brandon Williams, who is another new firefighter, is currently in the academy. Several weeks more to go, but hopefully I will be adding him to the mix as well in a few weeks' time.
Do we want to wait until Brendan graduates and then bring all 5 in to
Sure.
meet the select board? I think that'd be nice to have them come in.
Sure. And that really wraps it for me.
Thank you. For the chair's report, I have 2 items. One is short, one is a little self-indulgent. The first one is, which is the shortest one, congratulations to the Milton High School girls hockey team for making the finals. They are gonna be playing at the Garden on the 15th at 9 a.m. If you are able to go, I would recommend it. They have done fabulous work to get back to the championship game, and we wish them the best of luck in that match. The second item is, as Mr. Milano alluded to earlier, I think it is an open secret that I am not returning to the select board for a second term. I just wanted to address that because I think some people have heard about it, some people haven't heard about it. The reason that I'm not returning is frankly, it's professional. My workload has increased dramatically at working at a school of public health. Over the last year has been very, very challenging. Our faculty have seen a lot of cuts at the federal level. And in addition, I think higher education generally has seen a lot of not great changes to the funding structure. And so my work has become onerous, and I feel that the job here on the select board, whether you're chair or the newest member, it's still a huge time commitment, and I have been putting work aside to continue to do the work here on the select board. But for the sake of my family and for my professional career, I don't think it's possible for me to continue to give this job the, I think, effort and time that it requires. It is a full-time job, not really full-time, but it's, I think as chair, I probably spend 15 to 20 hours a week on town work. And I love it. I love this town. It's been great. I think over the last 3 years of my tenure on the select board, we've passed a great override for the schools. We've secured land for the school, for a new school, as well as MSBA funding for the new school. We've restored state funding from the MBTA communities. We've built a new animal shelter. We've got a traffic, we've dealt with the traffic on the most dangerous road in the Commonwealth. We've created a new code of conduct for the select board. And I think generally over the last year, and I want to credit all of my colleagues here on the board, we've done a really great job, I think, of improving the tone of the discussion in the town. Even when we disagree, I think we've done a really wonderful job of modeling that. We've created a new master budget coordination committee, which, as we talked about earlier, has done a world of good for helping us to better understand the town budget and address problems earlier than we've previously been addressing them. We also hired a new general counsel for town, which was a big change, the first change for that in several decades. And I've heard nothing but great comments about our new general counsel and the work that they're doing. So I look back at the time that I've spent here on this board with immense pride and respect for the people who do this work. It's not an easy job. I wish all of the candidates for the future the best of luck. And I know that they will need our support and calm but constant input so that they can continue to do their jobs. But I'm really grateful to Mr. Milano and to the town staff, Lynn, who is our tireless worker over there in the corner, always taking notes and very reliably reporting out. It's been a real honor to be on this board. I just wanted to get that out of the way so that I'm sure everybody who watches these meetings was already aware of that, but I feel like I hadn't made a public statement about it and it was overdue. So thank you for allowing me to indulge in that. I will now turn to members if they have anything to report on.
First, thank you for your service and the time that you've been here. I know I feel like we have a few more meetings before you say your ultimate goodbye, but thank you. And you were one of the first people I spoke to when I was thinking about running. So
are you mad at me? Yes.
TBD, 2 more years ago. We'll see. But yeah, I just leave it at that. My only comment for members' reports was again echoing your sentiments on the Milton girls hockey team. Anyone that is available, they play Sunday at 9 at the Garden. They were in the championship last year, did not go their way, so they have an opportunity this year to return and win the championship. And as many Miltonites as possible that can go and support them Sunday at 9 a.m. Please do. You can stay and go to the Southie Parade after if you are so moved. But please go out and support our girls hockey players.
Other reports from members?
I don't really have a report. I just thank you for your service, Ben. You know, I also spoke with you before I ran. I'm not mad at you. But you know, I'm glad that we have this time with you and with Richard before you guys both you know, pass the torch to 2 new people. And it's been, I feel like you've been very supportive of us and I'm grateful for that. And I've really enjoyed the working relationship that we all have here.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Zoll, I got to know you, you're a great guy, and thank you for helping the town. And good luck on your next adventure, I'm sure you'll do well.
Thank you, Mr. Driscoll. I look forward to our continued friendship.
Well,
Great. We did not have public comment, so there's no need for public comment response. Future meeting schedule, Mr. Milano, you have us on the 24th of March, the 7th of April, and April 14th.
In that order, we just plugged those to do 2 in April, but you know, I think it would be, would have been the 14th and the 28th. The 28th is the town election. the week before that is obviously April vacation, so just looking at the calendar, whether it's the 31st, 7th, 31st and 14th, I just do think we would need 2 meetings after the one on the 24th.
I agree with that. How does that look for folks' schedules? So then we would, the 14th would be our last meeting before town meeting.
Yes, and you would probably have to, yes.
You'll have an organizational meeting.
Have some kind of organizational meeting to
Yeah.
elect a chair.
But other than the organizational meeting.
I can't believe we're like already there.
It does fly. Does that schedule sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, let's lock it in.
Okay, thank you.
Future agenda items, I alluded to a couple of them. I think having the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Trust meet next meeting would be helpful. And we talked a bit already about conversation items with DPW for our next meeting. Other future agenda items for folks.
Do we have any outstanding departments? Have we not heard from some? Did we get through everyone?
We have
Two.
a handful to go still, so we'll probably look at one of the April meetings. The 24th will be busy.
Building
I think having it as a rolling
Yeah,
agenda.
yeah.
Building department?
We could coordinate with Mike for the 7th or the 14th of April.
Yeah, let's do that.
I also have 2 requests to the town administrator. One, for a meeting with the planning board, just to find out what they're working on and what's most important to them. We have not an opportunity to really get an update
Yep.
with the planning board, whether that's just the chair or multiple members who'd like to come
Yep.
in. And secondly, perhaps in our next meeting, I would like for us to discuss where we are with our SHI affordables. Just knowing where we stand on 40B compliance and then 10% with all of our builds, so that
That would be good to, yeah, and that to schedule that discussion item before the Governor Stoughton trustees meet would make sense.
And then if I could ask, and Mr. Zoll, just your commentary added one is just that with the transition to KP, is there any interest in having a conversation about how that's gone, or is everybody
I
comfortable
think-
with?
I think that would be a good idea, to be honest, just like a 1 year.
Yeah. Do you wanna, and this is maybe more of a question for the three of you, would you wanna schedule that in May so that the new town meeting, the new select board members could meet KP? Bring them in.
was this a meeting we want with KP, or do we want just Nick's input as
Well, I think,
as well?
when we had the debate and discussion on the town council, I think we acknowledged that we wanted to do sort of a first year recap of how we felt they had performed. I think in general, we feel that they have performed well, but I
What's a year
thought-
out? When
yeah.
did we hire them? Was it?
Not
That's
until
the
the
thing,
fall.
it wasn't
Yeah, it
until
was the
really
fall.
like, August, September where they started working in
Yeah.
earnest.
We're
So
closest like a 6-month update.
really more like a 6-month check-in and.
So maybe just a 6-month check-in without them or with them?
I'd say,
Well, I would do it before they come on board, cause like they're
Okay.
not gonna have a lot of basis for,
Okay,
yeah.
so try to make that for one of the April meetings too.
Sorry, just to clarify, do you want me to invite Darren to join us, or did you want?
Yeah, I think that'd be
Okay,
helpful.
That's, I just, okay, let Darren, okay. Alright.
Other future agenda items? Okay, let's see, let me flip to my motions here.
Mr. Chair, for
yes,
for
Mr. Mullen.
26, we can forego which is the minutes, and then
Okay.
for item 30, it's really just for sub-item D for Milton firefighters.
Item 25, you mean?
Exclude
Okay.
The other units.
All right, so I am going to make a motion that, excuse me, no. I'm gonna make a motion to enter into executive session where did that go? I'm gonna make a motion to move into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, specifically Milton firefighters, local 1116, based on my belief that discussion of this matter in open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the select board. The select board will not return to open session. This is a roll, can I get a second on that?
second,
This is a roll call vote. So Mr.
Yes.
Driscoll, Ms. Haggerty?
Yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
I can't
I will
be here
take-
for that, right, Nick?
And then I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, we are adjourned. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.